Right, in the fourth part of this series of guides about painting this little scene, we'll do the sky. Now the sky was almost pure blue in the sun, so I'm going to use cobalt, but I'm just going to introduce a little bit of light for variation. It won't compromise the actual light on the subject. We'll start here. I'm going to paint round this tree trunk because it was quite light. I'll go down that side. Go round the keep once you've started on this sort of thing, you've got to keep going. Go round the, I'll go over the chimney pots, but I can go round the stacks. I always think chimney pots are a bit too fiddly to go round, unless they are very light, in which case you've got to I'll just introduce a little bit of light. Now this is raw sienna and a bit of light red. Lots of water. Then back to some of the cobalt. It's essential to keep going in this. Now there's some hazy trees in the distance here, so we can just put those in perhaps. This is a bit of raw umber, a bit of burnt sienna. It's probably a bit too strong. I'll live with that. And there's some here as well. This is where nice to have a bit of fuzziness there. Just set up the, now all of this was fairly dense. And a bit of burnt sienna, ultramarine perhaps. Let's put some in here. Go back to raw umber. Raw umber is a useful colour because it's quite heavy and a little bit opaque. And just a bit of dark there will set up the sun on that. Right, let's just leave that to dry, and we'll get some of these nice darks in, which I'm looking forward to. I'll just wipe some of this out of the palette. It's more to do with getting rid of the excess water in the palette. If I start again, I can get a better handle on how much moisture I've got on the brush. Just while that's drying, let's just finish off this this here. These shadows of the Suffolk pen tiles. It's always be nice to get those in. Now, for a dark green, let's mix up Windsor blue cadmium and burnt sienna. Quite a stiff, real stiff mixture. So, and then add water to the paint. I always think that's very important. Not the other way around. Don't have a puddle of water. No, this dark here is really going to set up the light on this brick wall. Put a little bit more raw sienna with it now. Don't have any light in that. And try and put a little bit of drawing, but just the odd little dip where the mortar is between these large paving stones. And the other thing is there's lots of weeds and things going up here. So I'll scratch them out with a knife. It just gives a little bit of relief to that. Probably overdone that. Anyway, now this there was a nice tree here with autumn colours in, if I remember rightly. One advantage of relying on your memory is that if your memory lets you down, you're forced to perhaps put in what you feel the picture needs, rather than be dictated by the literal truth. Make that a bit darker in there. Where's the edge of the cottage? I know this is all quite dense. A little bit more bluey as we go into the distance here. Raw umber, and there was this large tree here. Cobalt and raw umber, but just a little bit of cobalt violet. I'll just pick up a slightly smaller brush. This is all very much in the distance, so we don't want to sort of overplay it. And there was a tree here. And a little bit here as well. Now, as the sky is dried, we can now do this large trunk. There was a telegraph pole actually just to the left of this, which the keen-eyed person will have noticed I got rid of. Now this is darker, obviously on the sunny side, and just let the paint fuse together. It'll make a better job of it than trying to poke it about and push them. Don't force an introduction, just let them sort themselves out. Now when we get to the bottom here, it turns into ivy, so let's add some viridian and burnt sienna to that green mixture. Just an indication of some of these. Really quite dark in places. But also light where the sun is catching the shiny ivy leaves. Let's darken it yet again with a bit of ultramarine, make it nice and sort of cool here. And then lighter green to connect it to the ground here on the sunny side. And darker where it casts a shadow. Quite a complicated shadow. Pick it up, lose it, pick it up, lose it, as it in all of this sort of various undergrowth here, which we'll paint in an abstract way unless you're particularly interested in botany. Keep the brush sort of moving, but get across the paper as well. Don't fuss about with it. Let's have some lighter areas here. Every time I go back to the palette, you'll notice I pick up something slightly different. Scrub at that a bit so it joins on to what we've already painted. And then it's really quite dark in here. There's some nice shadows. Keep the shadows quite warm. Some nice shadows sort of going across here and then up the wall. This is almost pure ultramarine. Up the wall and then across. Whoops, that's a little bit, that's just probably a little bit too heavy. Because the foliage will cast shadows. We'll have another one sort of up here and across here, and it nicely gives the emphasizes the slope of the top of the wall, as well as sort of going into the picture. Some real darks, dark greens here. A bush. put a dark in here as well, just to show up that sun on the cottage wall, and there's a little shadow across here. It's all a bit abstracty, that. Just going to fill in some of these white bits. I don't want too many of those. Right, let's just take a breather there, because that was a bit frantic. And then in the final part of this series, we'll go for the end. We'll finish it off with a few details, and but not at the expense, I hope, of losing any of the lively freshness that we've already got into the painting.